when you think about it in business, it's no different. Like, we're on the same team. And when you think about, again, the basketball analogy, maybe someone takes it from the end court to halfway, and someone takes it from halfway to the 3-point line, and someone takes it that 1 inch to the basket. You think about, someone did do 50% of the work, someone did 25% of the work, and maybe someone only did 1% of the work, but without that 1%, it's not a win.
Woo! Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another Knowledge Bomb episode of Lead to Greatness, where we believe in helping others reach their greatest potential and together change the world. Today on Lead to Greatness, we have Kash Rocheleua.
And if this is your first time, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that like button, hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of these amazing episodes. And if you're on iTunes, go ahead and rate the podcast and leave a review. That helps get the word out to great leaders and entrepreneurs like yourself.
Please help me welcome Kash with How Great Leaders Inspire Action.
This is Cedric Francis, and you're listening to Lead to Greatness.
So my name is Kash. I was born and raised in the Portland area to my parents who are still together, and I grew up in just a pretty traditional household and a pretty traditional life. When I graduated high school, I went on to college and got a business degree and was a college athlete. And after that, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So I got into personal training and always wanted to be a mom. It was like the dream of the dream. And when my husband and I got married, we had quite a bit of infertility. And a few years into our journey, we were finally able to have my oldest. And I was awarded the opportunity to stay home, which I had, again, like dreamed about. And I was awarded that opportunity. And about 7 months in, I was so unfulfilled, and not because I didn't love being a mom, didn't love not spending time with my kid. I felt like I wasn't waking up with a purpose. I had all of this work behind me. I had a college degree, and I felt like I was not fully utilizing all of my potential. And I built up this unnecessary resentment. And my husband came home one afternoon from work, and I just kind of blew a gasket, and I got to go back to work. I can't do this anymore. This is not who I am. And of course, like the level-headed person that he is, he was like, okay, so go back to work. And, I just, again, didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't really want to go back to the personal training world. I loved helping people on their fitness journeys and unlocking potential in them that they didn't know they had. But it also was very much like an unlicensed therapy session. Like, people are coming in, they're unloading all of their problems for the day, week, etc., while you're trying to help them on this fitness journey. And then you're carrying that home. And I also felt like I was carrying weight that I didn't need to be carrying. I went just to Craigslist, actually, and looked for admin roles in business, and Icon Foods was looking for an executive assistant to the CFO. And in my mind, like, the simplistic thoughts that I had was, like, I run the finances of my house. I negotiate with a toddler every day. I am basically the COO and making sure everything happens. And so how hard could it be to help, navigate an adult through a department day to day? And it was just that tipping point into the workforce and out of the home all the time. And I'm very type A, very curious, want to learn anything and everything. And as I got into the workplace, there was no difference. The CFO at the time, about 6 months in, 4 to 6 months in, had to go back to Hawaii to tend to some family issues. And we were not equipped at the time to be remote. And we were doing about 7 to 8 million in revenue a year. And she had said, Kash is very intelligent. I think she could do it. And between her and the founder and CEO at the time, they kind of threw me the keys and said, let's see what can happen. And I took that opportunity and ran with it. I mean, I lived in fear for a little bit. Like, why would someone do this? But I was not afraid to sink. I was more afraid to say no to the opportunity and watch it pass me by and never have that opportunity again. And so that's kind of how I got into the business. And I would say growing through the business, growing through the industry really hasn't been much different. I think it's been a lot faster for me than most people just because I wasn't afraid of learning all of the different aspects of the business. It wasn't above me to go work on the production line. It wasn't above me to go get forklift certified. It wasn't above me to build relationships with the sales team and with the customers and really get granular with how all of these cogs in the wheel worked, which just naturally led to upward mobility opportunities.
Here you are, you say you were at home and getting back to work. So you're doing the leading at home, but at home, you know your husband, you know your child. I mean, and going to an environment where you don't know anyone. And I know a lot of leaders struggle with this thing called imposter syndrome. And I believe more leaders are talking about it now than maybe 10, 15 years ago. Did you deal with that through the journey? And how did you get over those hurdles of that imposter syndrome?
I think at first things were going so fast that I didn't have time to really sit in the moment of the imposter syndrome. But I feel like once I got systems rolling, when I got the finance department rolling the way that I wanted with the SOPs that I wanted, and kind of the routines that worked for me and the people that I later brought on, I had more time to kind of sit within myself. But those first few years, I look back and I just reflect on either I was completely insane or I don't know what it was, because I was coming out of being a mom to one. I then had my second, I then had my third. And my third was born in a season while I was also getting my master's, while my husband was deployed, and while I was appointed CFO. And so things were just happening so fast and was on such a upward trajectory that I didn't really have time to sit with the imposter syndrome. But when things kind of calmed down and when I had the time to sit and reflect with what just happened and all of these opportunities that were awarded to me, that was the moment that I was like, maybe I'm not the most qualified in the room. Maybe I'm not deserving to be here. Maybe I don't have enough tenure. It was the time that I had time to think about it that I really battled with the imposter syndrome. I don't remember what the topic was, but I remember that there was a topic that was being discussed, and I had an idea that was so probably naive at the time. And I remember thinking, like, do I stay quiet or do I speak up? And I remember being nervous. I'm like, I don't even deserve to be in this room. I'm just here to be like the fly on the wall and kind of learn how the cogs work. And I ended up, I don't know, finding the courage to speak up and say, what if we did it this way? Or what if we thought about it this way? And I remember that the CEO at the time was like, that's exactly what we need to hear to start kind of transpiring the conversation into this thoughtful discussion, kind of pushed away from maybe we got to the problem here because we're doing things as we've always done them. And I'd say that moment changed a lot for me because it made me realize that leadership had nothing to do with titles. It had more to do with impact and having the courage to bring value to a room, you know, no matter where you sit at the table. And so as a CEO now, I try to carry that forward and think about that in my kind of head as I approach board tables, as I approach conversations with people that report to me in an environment, to try to create an environment where every person, regardless of where they sit on the totem pole, that they know that they have a platform to speak and their idea may get implemented. We may take a piece of it. It may cause us to kind of pivot the conversation somewhere where we wouldn't. I just learned that change doesn't always come from the loudest person in the room. It comes from the one almost always who didn't speak up.
Yeah. You know, Cash, you're saying this, and I don't know why basketball came into my mind. The referee give the individual the ball, they throw the ball in, then you have an individual dribble the ball down the
Mhm.
court. You get to half court, you dribble the ball again, then you set up the plays, and somebody, whether it's the point guard, whether it's somebody
Mhm.
taking it to the hole, they score the point. But
Mhm.
I'm listening to what you're saying, and it puts me in the mind frame. It's like the whole team got involved. One
Mhm.
person, the one that scored the point, seemed like the one that maybe the loudest voice or the one that did everything. But all the individual that it took to get
Mhm.
all the way down to score that point. And I like the way you said this, and I love how you said the monthly meetings, sitting at the table, and then the aspect of you recognizing your uniqueness to be able to add value to the table. No matter how long it took, you did that. I want to talk because there's someone right now that's frustrated, that's missing opportunities, and they missing opportunities not because they don't have what it takes, not because they're not great. It's because they won't open up their mouth and say what needs to be said. I want you to speak to that individual right now from your perspective and for what you overcame. I want you to speak to that individual and encourage that young man, encourage that young lady, and getting it done no matter what, even when they feel the fear and do it anyway.
Well, I love the analogy with the basketball. First, I would say that there's a responsibility on the leaders, right? There's this
Mm,
responsibility to create those opportunities and platforms for your employees because your employees aren't speaking up and contributing to conversations. There's a reason, and it's
yeah.
usually the leaders. I mean, there's a pretty well-known quote that the fish rots from the head down, meaning
Mm,
that when things aren't going well, when things are not going as planned, when people aren't speaking up, when
mm,
processes are falling apart, 9 times out of 10, it's because of leadership, either poorly
mm,
communicating, not creating platforms for these people. And so I'd say for me, the courage was there because of the leaders at that table being willing to listen to what I had to say, whether it was naive and dumb or not. And
yeah.
then not only listening, but also encouraging and giving some of those accolades on like, thank you for sharing that. Um, Continue to speak up. Like they bridged the gap in taking away some of that fear. To the
Mm,
other side, I would say there's no reason to not speak up, right? And I would
mm,
say in a very respectful way. When I spoke up in those earlier years, I always led with the respect of, I'm not seasoned in the industry. I am not well ingrained in the business, but here's a thought. And it could have
mm,
been complete garbage, but hear me out. In my head, the worst that could happen is that they completely shoot it down. Like it's not
mm,
going to change the course of my day. I think as up and coming leaders or those that want to be future leaders, they can work on creating those platforms for those below them, but also don't take it personally, right? For
mm.
me, if my idea doesn't get taken, I'm still going home to a husband who loves me. I'm still going home to kids that love me.
Excellent.
It's not going
Yeah.
to define me. And I would say, don't worry about the ownership piece of it. If the idea goes through or we springboard off of this idea into a true decision, my name doesn't need to be on it. It was for the betterment of the organization. It was for the betterment of the team. And I think so often as up and coming, less tenured employees, we get so attached to I need this on my resume or I need these accolades in order
Mm,
to springboard myself. And so it becomes a self motivated
yeah.
move or idea or kind of play instead of if the organization is doing well, we're all doing well, which is propelling all of us forward.
That individual, let's still using the basketball now. That individual that got the ball to half court, As a leader, how do you rally them in? It's, thanks, man. You did a great job getting that ball halfway. What does that look like in business or at the table in the conference room?
I think it's being a team. I mean, we
Yeah.
talk about team being an athlete. I think being a part of sports organizations, whether it's, city, intramural, professional, collegiate, whatever, is so important in how you attack life because you realize that, I am just a drop in the bucket to this bigger thing. And we
Mm.
can't win without me, but we can lose without me. And
Yeah.
so when you think about it,
Wow. That's
when you,
good.
right? When you think about it in business, it's no different. Like we're on the same team. And when you think about, again, the basketball analogy, maybe someone takes it from the end court to halfway, and someone takes it from halfway to the 3 point line, and someone takes it that 1 inch to the basket. You think
Yeah.
about someone did do 50% of the work, someone did 25% of the work, and maybe someone only did 1% of the work, but without that 1%, it's not a win.
Woo! Yes, yes. Knowledge bomb. This is really good. This is really good. I'm definitely excited. I'm loving this conversation. I want to talk about Icon Foods, right? I mean, you
Mhm.
have Icon Food talking about behind the scenes. I mean, you guys behind the scenes in grocery stores. I mean, your fingerprint is on a lot of things that get
Mhm.
that's happening, right? Just share that real quick, and then we'll get going.
Yeah. So I think that what we do is very essence of that 1%, right? Like
Yeah,
we work under a lot of NDAs. A lot of our customers, they don't want people knowing who they're going to for their ingredients, but we are an ingredient company and we work in the clean label sugar reduction space. So we work with CPGs, which are the brands that you purchase on the store shelves, the gas
yeah,
station shelves, wherever
yeah.
you purchase your goods. So we work with those companies, whether they're a new brand and formulating something that is low in sugar or reduced sugar, high in fiber, protein, etc., or if they're reformulating something where they want to reduce that sugar. So
Mm,
we work with that, and we work with natural sweeteners, naturally derived. So, erythritol, allulose, monk fruit, stevias, and then we're well into the fibers and we're starting to get into protein. But yeah, we are on, I would say our handprints are on a lot of major brands,
yeah.
probably brands that are in your cupboard or regular purchase of you. But for us, not being able to, advertise that we work
Mm.
with some of these brands, it's very similar to that 1%, right? Like without us, they don't get over that 1%. And that's very rewarding, knowing what goes into these brands and how they get to the shelves and the little fraction of what we do to help them get there. It's very full circle in how you deal with a team inside the business to how you deal with your customers.
When you're dealing with, like I say, product and let's say something new is getting ready to be launched or whatever, what do you do as a CEO to rally the team behind, that idea?
That is a good question. So I would say that being a mom, I found that when my kids sense fear, doubt, any trepidation,
Yeah.
when I have any of that, they sense it. And when they sense it, it's a fail.
Mm.
Like I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And so, becoming a mom and being in business has helped propel me so much in a lot of these kind of situations. Like, how would I deal with this with my child is very similar to how I would deal with it with my employees. So for me, I would say that the first thing that I would do in a product launch is I would have to let go of any hesitation and show only confidence and excitement. So when I paint this vision of what we're going to do and why we're going to do it, it's with confidence, it's with excitement, and it's with a united front with the rest of the leadership team. And
Yeah.
so, there's not always products that I'm fully on board with. There's certainly a hesitation from a finance background
Mm.
if it doesn't go well. Um, but I can't let the team see those hesitations. I can't let them see my trepidation. So I have to be a united front with the leadership team. We have to present it in an excited, confident manner.
Mm.
And then I would also say to that is, you know, you then have to create these co-creators with them, right? How is R&D going to dream bigger for the next one? And how is marketing going to push the narrative to make sure that it's successful? And how is the sales team going to come up with and imagine who these products are going to? And so you kind of have to go into this kind of like dream world, if you
Yeah.
will,
Yeah.
to push something forward. And then I would also say that you kind of have to tap into like an emotional side, because wild ideas aren't just like business moves. It's kind of a
Yeah.
chance to make history, right? Like
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
look at the big things that some of the players behind me have done, they've been wild ideas. I mean, when you think about Tesla, an electric vehicle was crazy. It's
Yeah.
like, why would we do that? And
Yeah.
so I have to kind of keep at the top of my head that that breakthroughs never start as safe bets, right? If they were
Mm.
safe bets, everyone would do them and they'd already be. And so reminding them that we are brave enough as a team, we're brave enough as
Yeah.
a company, and we're brave enough in this industry to take on some of these difficult innovations.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, rallying around the unexpected.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And you mentioned CEO and you mentioned mom, and I thought about, even as a parent or as a CEO, I mean, you have to understand, you have to have empathy, you have to,
Mhm.
you have to really know where that fear come from, how to avoid it, and how to get around it. So those are definitely some good things. I love the way you keep bringing that in, because I think a lot of times as leaders, we don't always think about that people are people. I mean,
Mhm.
whether they're 2 years old, 20 years old, 80 years old, 120 years old, if you may,
Mhm.
the people are people, right? So I mean, I'm definitely I love the way, I mean, I think you keep mentioning that, not seeing the difference and that helping
Mhm.
you as a leader, and I think that's pretty awesome. Awesome.
You have to be you have to be confident and courageous. And when I think about when I think about, my youngest who's now 5,
Mhm.
all of my kids up until I would say like 4-ish
Mhm.
had this level of confidence and lack of fear
Yeah.
that you don't see. At some point that breaks and we become
Yeah.
fearful of everything. I remember my oldest, he was standing at this top of the stairs and he said he was going to jump. And I knew he was, because I knew he wasn't scared. And when you look at entrepreneurs and some of the greatest leaders
Yeah.
in our modern day business, most of them were never broken of that fear.
Mm.
And the ones that
Mm.
are fearful were conditioned to like, no, let's take one step at a time, or
Yeah.
no, you can't jump in off the deep end. And I think
Yeah.
that there's a level of control that you can have around this. And I, again, in my parenting role and my leadership role, my 5-year-old wants to jump into the deep end of a pool. What is the worst that can happen? I'm standing right there. I'm not going to
Yeah.
let him drown. And I think it's very similar in business. If they have an opportunity, I have a salesperson that just reached out to a whale of a customer. Who am I to stop him? I
Yeah.
mean, the chances of him closing it, probably
Yeah.
lower than normal, but why would I implement that fear of like, you're not going to be able to do this, instead of
Mm.
letting them jump in and knowing that I'm there to catch them and that they're not going to drown. Like, take the risk.
Yeah. As a leader, who do you have in your life jumping off the rooftop? Who is that individual in your life that's saying, let's think about this?
I have a couple. So my husband is one of them. I mean,
Mm.
I start a lot of my conversations with him like, this is a crazy idea. And,
Yeah.
he never shuts it down and like, nope, we're not doing this again.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'm sure it's going to be crazy, but let's hear it.
Yeah.
Um, I think that he has more of like a risk aversion mindset just because of some of the risks that we take. He's going to have implications too.
Absolutely.
I have a very, very close girlfriend who worked her way up into a very high level at a medical company that same kind of thing. Like she has this way of listening to exactly what I have to say and then saying like, that's a good idea, but maybe we think about it this way.
Yeah.
And then I would also say that my parents are very much a sounding board, and they know me from birth to now. They know the decisions I've made and how they've shaped who I am, and are great cheerleaders, but also great sounding boards.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm also a huge podcaster and reader, so I follow a lot of leaders that I want to, the type of leaders that I want to be. And so, Kat Cole, who's leading AG1. I mean, when you look at her story of she started as a waitress at Hooters at age 19 and worked her way up into leading multi-billion-dollar companies.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was done based on failures and taking risks and opportunities. And she's a huge cheerleader and advocate for, kind of breaking down the walls of imposter syndrome. And if you're at the table, you deserve to be there, like take the opportunities. So not a direct one, but quite a few leaders that I follow in the world of business today.
Wow. Wow, that's interesting, Cash, because I mean, it just seems like you're doing all this by yourself. You don't have a community and you're making it happen. I'm joking. I'm joking.
No, it's not
and-
on me. It
yeah.
is
And-
100% on my community.
exactly. And lead to greatness. Just listen to that. It takes community. It takes community. Great people have a great community. And just remember that. Don't do it by yourself. Don't be solo with it. Just, get that great community. Cash, I have something. What are some practical leadership growth tips, tool advice that you can help to lead to greatness with to help us reach our greatest potential?
Yeah, I would say like three that I always come back to would be clarity. So knowing your vision, communicating it until you're almost tired of hearing it yourself.
Mm.
Teams don't need perfect roadmaps. And I've learned that like in a very messy way, but they do need to understand the destination and why it matters. And so Start with the Why
Yeah.
is a great book to have in your toolbox. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I know that when you align people with the why,
Mm.
there's no greater thing. And
Yeah.
I would say discipline. This is so underrated, but leadership is not just the big speeches and bold moves. No one remembers your speeches. Like I
Yeah.
remember my appointment speech, but I'm sure if I
Yeah.
ask my employees, they're like, I have no clue what you said. But it's about the daily follow through. Like if you
Mm.
say something, you got to do it. You got to be consistent. It's small choices that compound over time.
Mm.
Growth comes from being very intentional
Yeah.
with how you spend your time, with how you do things, with how you develop people, and how you show up when no one's watching.
Mm.
And I would say, finally, would be humility. And I say this because I'm speaking to myself
Wow.
predominantly here, but
Yeah.
it's about remembering that you don't have to have all of the answers. And this is a
Mm.
very hard lesson that I learned
Mm.
pretty early on. I still struggle with it on most times because I think as leaders, we think if we don't have the answers, then we're weak leaders. But leadership is less than it's not about being the smartest person in the room. It's about ensuring that you have the right people at the seats
Mm.
that can create the room where smart people can thrive
Mm.
and ask those naive questions.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
I would say listen with two ears and,
yeah,
speak with one mouth. And then
yeah.
in terms of tools, I would say lean into your framework, whatever that is. For us at Icon Foods, we run on EOS, which helps, mitigate chaos. Systems don't stifle creativity, they free it. And so I would say use your tools, lean on them, not just as a source of software, but as a source of accountability. And don't underestimate the simple tools of like journaling and regular reflection, because the best leaders that I know, they know how to make time to process and not just produce. And most of the leaders that I follow, the common denominator is journaling and reflection. And that's how we get better. Yes, traction.
Yeah. Listen. She mentioned
book.
EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System. Listen, check this out. And I want you to see this, Kash. So I have this right here. The
toolkit. Yes.
This thing is amazing. That's and she mentioned this, so I'm gonna say it, eosworldwide.com. You all check that out. I mean, Kash use it, I use it. There's other organizations that that I associate with that use it. So definitely. Kash Knowledge Bomb. Thank you for the information. Thank you for dropping all the knowledge and all these gems for us during this time. This was so awesome. If someone wanted to connect with you and what you're doing, where should they go?
The best place would be LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there. I try to respond to anyone that sends a note over. You can also find us at iconfoods.com. And if you are feeling like a leader or a business owner that is in shambles, I literally could not refer EOS more. I would say if you're not familiar with it, Traction is a great book to read, but also Clockwork is another great one that really leans into kind of getting out of your business and relying on the people around you and how powerful that can be.
You said Clockwork?
Clockwork, yep.
I never heard of that one.
That's a good one. That's actually that was like the springboard into Traction for us.
Okay. Wow.
Which then led us to EOS.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you for that gem. Knowledge bomb. Thank you for that gem. I'm gonna look that up. Do you have anything? Do you have any learning materials, a book you're thinking about come out? What is that? What is that journey looking like for the future?
I am working on a book. I don't have an end date for it, but I am working on a book. For me, I love what we do in this industry. I love the clean label space, not only because it is near and dear to my heart and how I live my life, but I've become so passionate in creating this voice for leaders and helping them understand that leadership is not a one size fits all. There's so many types of leadership, and
Absolutely.
You have to be kind of a chameleon to all of your employees. What leadership style works for one doesn't work for the other. And so I'm so passionate about growing leaders and helping some of our more seasoned and mature leaders understand that there are multiple ways to engage with some of the younger generations that are coming into the workforce. So I'd say be open-minded wherever you are.
Yeah, and Kash, I definitely, if it's up to you and your team, I would definitely, when you do come out with the book, I would love to have you back on the Lead to Greatness podcast to talk about that, to discuss that, because we talked about this amazing journey, but getting into that book world is a whole nother journey, and definitely want to get your insight on that once it's completed. So
yeah, I would love that.
On behalf of the Lead to Greatness community, I want to thank you so very much, Kash, for taking time out of your busy schedule and adding value to us all.
Thank you so much for having me.
We want to thank you for joining us today on the Lead to Greatness podcast. So remember, if you help others reach their greatest potential, together we can change the world. Peace.